It started with the kind of morning that tricks you into believing the world is gentle. Sunlight kissed the runways. Airplanes taxied like giant silver swans gliding over black glass. Inside the terminal, everything glittered with that pre-flight energy: coffee steam, rolling suitcases, boarding calls drifting like lullabies. And then she arrived. Her name was Karen. Not the mythical creature from internet jokes, a real woman with a real temper and an unreal sense of ownership. She moved like she expected the world to part for her. She wore bright white sunglasses even indoors, like a local celebrity hiding from ordinary light. Her handbag looked heavy with more than just makeup, heavy with entitlement. Her flight wasn't for 3 hours. She had a standard economy ticket. She had no lounge membership, no upgrade, no invitation. But in her mind, she had something stronger than credentials. She had rights. She spotted the frosted glass doors of the Skyway Executive Lounge. Beyond them, soft leather recliners leaned like elegant sighs. Buffets glowed under warm lamps, with towers of croissants and platters of strawberries. Baristas pulled espresso shots for people who spoke in low, satisfied tones. Karen saw all of it and decided that it belonged to her. She marched straight to the front desk. Her heels ticked across the polished floor like a metronome of impatience. Daniel, the lounge agent, looked up with a practiced smile that had survived many storms. "Good morning," he said, warm as fresh bread. "Boarding pass and lounge credential, please." Karen didn't offer anything. Instead, she set her handbag on the counter like a judge lowering a gavel. "I'll be in there for the next 3 hours," she announced. "Open the door." Daniel kept his smile, but he adjusted it to survival mode. "Of course," he said gently. "May I see your membership card or business class ticket?" Karen blinked slowly, like she couldn't believe she'd been addressed in the language of rules. "I'm a taxpayer," she said, each syllable dipped in vinegar. "This is a public airport." "It is," Daniel agreed. "And the lounge is a private facility within it." His voice carried no judgment, just quiet boundaries. "Access requires a qualifying ticket or a membership." Karen's eyebrows climbed toward the white frames of her sunglasses. "Do I look like someone who needs permission?" she demanded. Behind her, the line for the desk grew longer, but the patience in it grew shorter. A mother with 2 sleepy children swayed gently, shushing them with soft kisses to their hair. A businessman checked his watch and sighed for the first, then the second, then the third time. Karen snapped her fingers. "I want to speak to a manager." "I am the supervisor on duty," Daniel replied calmly. "What I can offer is a day pass purchase if you qualify, or I can help you find seating at gate 19 with power outlets and..." She cut him off with a laugh that had no humor. "A day pass? Are you selling air now?" She leaned over the counter and lowered her voice into a threat. "You will open that door, or you will regret it." Daniel raised his hand politely, palm open, like a traffic guard for emotions. "Ma'am, please don't raise your voice." "Too late." Her voice rose like a flare shot into a clear sky. "This entire lounge," she declared, pivoting to the growing audience, "belongs to the public. I am the public. Therefore, it belongs to me." A teenager by the stanchions whispered, "Oh no, it's happening," and lifted his phone. Others followed. Camera lenses tilted like curious birds. Some faces were amused. Some were exhausted. Some were just hoping not to miss their flights because of someone else's movie. Daniel pressed a discreet button under the counter. Security would come, but it always took a minute that felt like an hour. He tried one last olive branch. "Let me check if there's a promotional access option today," he offered. "May I scan your boarding pass?" "What part of 'I own this lounge' do you not understand?" she snapped. And with that, she turned, pushed the frosted door, and slipped into the lounge as the door sensor beeped like a conscience. 3 notes of alarm pulsed through the air. Like a heartbeat that had quickened. Like a countdown. Inside, the lounge attendants looked up from milk frothers and pastry tongs. The barista paused mid-pour, a ribbon of espresso hanging in the air like a question mark. Karen strode to the buffet, snatched a white plate, and began taking food as if the room were a buffet of consequences she'd never have to pay. A line of strawberries fell into her palm. She popped one into her mouth without breaking eye contact with Daniel through the glass. Then she smiled with the smuggest smile the terminal had seen in months. 2 security officers arrived. Officer Ramirez, tall and steady as a lamppost in a storm. Officer Lee, sharp-eyed, balanced, professional. They entered without hurry because haste signals fear, and they carried none. "Ma'am," Ramirez said, warm but firm, "please step out to the lobby with us." Karen lifted her chin as if to show them the ceiling. "I'll be staying," she replied. "I'm a stakeholder." "In what?" Officer Lee asked gently. "In public infrastructure," Karen declared. "And you're violating my rights." Ramirez nodded, that calm nod officers learn after years of people testing limits. "I hear you," he said, "and here's what's next. We verify your access. If you have it, you stay. If you don't, you leave with us. Right now." Karen held her plate theatrically. She gestured with it like a royal decree made of fruit. "This plate proves my access," she announced. "I'm eating. Therefore, I belong here." Someone near the espresso machine snorted. A ripple of uneasy laughter floated over the marble counters. Phones were now filming openly. A small chorus of notifications pinged as live stream started with captions like "Airport Lounge Karen, Episode XX," and "Public Property." Daniel stood a respectful distance behind the officers, hands clasped, breathing slow. He looked more tired than angry, the kind of tired that comes from believing in order and meeting chaos before lunch. "Ma'am," he said, still gentle, "we can refund any buffet item, but we can't refund time. Please cooperate." Karen pivoted and planted her plate on the counter with a smack. Strawberries rolled. A blueberry escaped like a moon rolling out of orbit. Her voice sharpened. "You're all going to regret this. I know people at City Hall. I know the Aviation Board. I know the Internet. The Internet is already here," the teenager near the door murmured to his live stream, and his audience exploded with laughing emojis. Officer Lee tried de-escalation. "Let's step outside," she said softly. "We'll sort this out where it's quieter." Karen's answer was to sweep her arm across the nearest platter. Porcelain shattered. Fruit skittered like marbles. A fork spun lazily, then lay still, pointing at nothing. The room inhaled as one. Silence arrived like a decision. Ramirez's voice lost its warmth and found its finality. "Ma'am, you're now creating a hazard and disrupting operations," he said. "You need to come with us." "I am staying," Karen shot back. "And I am calling my lawyer." "You can call from the lobby," Lee replied. "And you can keep your dignity by walking, not being carried." Karen decided to double down. She grabbed the plate again, held it like a shield, and took a step toward the VIP alcove. That was the line. Ramirez stepped to her side, Lee to the other. They guided her arms gently, professionally, with the practice choreography of people who have to keep a world from breaking every day. "Don't touch me!" Karen screamed, the sound cracking like a glass dropped on tile. "Assault! You're all fired. This is my property." "This is the airport authority's property," Ramirez corrected calmly. "And you are trespassing." The word landed. Trespassing. The audience shifted. Some people stopped filming to just watch, because real consequences are quieter than viral ones. A toddler started crying, and the mother rocked him gently and whispered, "It's okay, baby, the grown-ups are sorting it out." They guided Karen toward the door. She resisted like a storm cloud resisting rain. "Everyone watch," she cried. "They're kidnapping me." "They're escorting you," someone replied from the recliners, tired but honest. Different word. As the door opened, the terminal's hum returned, gate calls, footsteps, the clack of wheels. They moved her through the space between the velvet ropes as if it were a tunnel of small mercies. People stepped aside. People stared. People pretended to read texts that didn't exist. Outside the lounge, near the big map of Concourse B, Karen pulled the last card from a deck that was never hers. She went limp. Dead weight. The kind of drop that says, "You will carry me, or you will release me." The officers didn't flinch. They shifted their balance, kept her upright, and kept moving. Professionalism is a kind of choreography. They knew every step. At the security office door, she tried for drama's last oxygen. "I have a medical condition," she gasped. Lee didn't miss a beat. "Then we'll get medical," she said. "And you'll still come with us." The door closed behind them with the soft thud of a world getting smaller. Phones lowered. Laughter trickled away. The lounge reassembled its dignity one shard of porcelain at a time. Daniel helped clean the floor. The barista poured fresh shots. The blueberry was retrieved. Order reknit itself like a sweater after a snag. Inside the security office, the room smelled like printer paper and patient coffee. A clock ticked with bureaucratic honesty. Karen sat on a chair and crossed her arms with a defiant twist that said she still believed reality could be negotiated. Ramirez took notes. Lee called for a paramedic to perform a quick check out of caution. Everything was by the book because the book had been written by those who had seen everything. "Name?" Ramirez asked. "Do I look like I'm giving you my name?" she sneered. Ramirez waited. Silence is a tool. People talk to escape it. She shifted, clicked her tongue, rolled her eyes, and finally exhaled her name like it cost too much. They verified her boarding pass. They recorded the incident. They explained the consequences: trespassing, disorderly conduct, destruction of property if the lounge wanted to press. Karen tried to bargain with air. "I'll pay for the plate," she said. "That's not the plate we're discussing," Lee replied. The paramedic arrived. Vitals normal. No distress beyond a heart galloping on adrenaline and indignation. "Any medications?" the paramedic asked. "Just patience pills," she snapped. The paramedic wrote something neutral. "Professionals write in weatherproof ink." Meanwhile, the terminal outside processed the drama the way modern terminals do. Clips hit social feeds. Captions sprouted and multiplied. Karen declares airport lounge public property. Cops versus entitlement at gate 22. I pay taxes, so I own the espresso machine. The teenager's live stream hit 100,000 viewers before he reached his gate. A travel blogger cut together a 90-second breakdown with dramatic strings and slow-motion fruit. A lawyer stitched the clip and explained the concept of limited-access private facilities in public spaces with charts and a tired smile. A comedian reenacted the blueberry rolling off the counter with a tiny toy car. The internet was efficient. It was merciless. It was hungry. In the office, hunger of another kind gnawed at the clock. Karen tried new strategies. "My husband is a lawyer," she said. "Then he'll understand the process," Ramirez replied. "My cousin is on the city council," she added. "Then he'll understand jurisdiction," Lee said. "I am calling the news," she threatened. "The news has already called us," Ramirez answered, and that truth found the first crack in her armor. A representative from the lounge arrived, calm and courteous. "Sir, ma'am," she said to the officers, "we'll replace the dishware and we're filing a formal incident report. We won't pursue the cost of food. But we will pursue a ban." "A ban?" Karen repeated, the word wobbling like a chair with a short leg. From this lounge? From all affiliated lounges nationwide, the rep replied. Your boarding pass will trigger a denial for 1 year. We'll review after that. The clock ticked again, louder in her mind than in the room. Consequences have a sound only the person facing them can hear. She looked smaller, all at once. Not because she had shrunk, but because her certainty had. The officers finished the paperwork. They explained that she would be released to continue her flight under conditions, no further disturbance, compliance with gate staff, and an escorted walk to her concourse. If she refused, the airline could offload her and rebook later, maybe much later. She nodded, but it was a nod without gravity. Agreement without understanding. Consent without comprehension. They escorted her back into the terminal. Camera phones lifted again. She flinched this time. The armor of spectacle is heavy once you've worn it for more than 10 minutes. She stared straight ahead and walked between the officers like a witness at her own life. At gate 19, she sat. The mother with the toddlers sat across the aisle. The businessman with the watch sat 2 rows down. The teenager with the live stream boarded early and waved awkwardly, a weird apology from the generation that lives with its camera on. Karen pretended not to see any of them. She stared at the carpet pattern the way people stare at bad news. Boarding began. She scanned her pass and stepped into the jet bridge like a person stepping into the next chapter, not because she wanted to, but because time only turns pages forward. On board, she stayed quiet. She kept her seatbelt fastened. She closed her eyes when the safety video reminded her that oxygen masks fall from the ceiling in an emergency and that you secure your own before helping others. It sounded like spiritual advice. She didn't feel ready to take it. Her phone buzzed on airplane mode with queued notifications. Friends had texted. A group chat had lit up with links to videos that felt uncomfortably familiar. A coworker had sent an eye emoji. A sister had typed, "Call me now." She couldn't call anyone at 35,000 feet. She could only sit with herself. The plane landed in another city with the same sunlight and different runways. Karen walked into another terminal where no one recognized her yet. She thought for a moment that she had escaped a storm by flying above it. But storms travel. So do stories. So does accountability. By the time she claimed her suitcase, an email waited from the airport authority, notice of incident, notice of lounge ban, note of potential fines, and an invitation, not to fight, but to learn. They offered a program the authority had started after too many scenes like hers, civility and shared spaces orientation, a 90-minute online module about public-private boundaries, staff safety, and how to be a passenger who makes the world easier instead of heavier. Complete it, and certain penalties could be reduced. Refuse it, and the ban would stand longer. She stared at the email as if it were written in a language she didn't speak. Then she opened social media and saw herself from 6 angles. The strawberry. The plate. The scream. The line of people who had to stand still because she refused to. Her face looked different from the outside. Anger makes strangers of us. For a day, she tried denial. This is out of context, she posted. But context appeared anyway, time stamps, witness accounts, the lounge statement. For a day, she tried defiance. I'll sue, she wrote. But the lawyers' explainers kept popping up, patient as librarians. For a day, she tried disappearance. She deleted the apps from her home screen, but not from her mind. Silence did not feel like victory. It felt like a room with the lights off where you still know the furniture's there. On the 3rd day, she opened the email again. She clicked Enroll. The module began with a map of an airport and a simple premise. Airports are shared ecosystems. Some spaces are public. Some are controlled. Access is a privilege where safety is the rule. She wanted to roll her eyes. But the videos were skillful. They showed real staff explaining things she had never bothered to learn. They showed the ripple effect of one tantrum on 10 schedules. They showed a barista making a latte for the 5th person who had been yelled at that week and still smiling. They showed an officer going home after a double shift, helping his kid with homework about fractions, dividing time like a magician. There were questions after each section. She clicked the correct answers because she already knew them now. She had learned them the hard way, not in theory, but in practice. At the end, a box appeared asking for a reflective statement. She let her fingers hover over the keyboard until honesty felt less frightening than pride. She wrote that she had been wrong. She wrote that being frustrated didn't make her right. She wrote that the lounge did not belong to her, not because she didn't pay taxes, but because paying taxes doesn't turn shared spaces into personal stages. She wrote that she was sorry. She hit submit. A reply pinged back within the hour. Her ban would stand for 6 months instead of a year if she had no further incidents. Her fines would be minimal because no one wanted to profit from her bad day, they only wanted fewer bad days. She would receive a link to a voluntary Q&A with airport staff about passenger behavior. Voluntary. No cameras. No press. Just people. She joined the call a week later. Daniel was there, voice warm as ever. Officer Lee joined, voice balanced as always. Ramirez couldn't make it, he was at his kid's school concert. Karen listened for most of the hour, and then she spoke quietly, like a person stepping onto a floor that might remember her footprints. I thought rules were insults, she said. They were instructions. The mother with the toddlers never knew she said that. The businessman with the watch never cared either way. The teenager probably clipped another viral moment the next week from someone else's day. The world kept spinning, because that's what it does. But something in Karen loosened. Not the grip on reality, the grip on the story she used to tell herself about reality. Months later, she flew again. New city. New terminal. Same frosted glass doors, different lounge name. She didn't try to go in. She didn't even slow down. She glanced at the sign that explained access. She nodded to it, like two acquaintances who had finally learned to coexist. She found a seat at gate 14 near the windows where planes blinked awake in the dusk. She bought her own coffee. She watched a family share a muffin and a joke. She watched a flight attendant kneel to talk to a nervous child at eye level. She watched the clock and felt, for once, unhurried by her own importance. On her phone, she drafted something that wasn't a defense, wasn't an attack, wasn't a disappearing act. It was a message to whoever might stumble on it and need it. She wrote. Airports are mirrors. They show you who you are under pressure. If you don't like the reflection, don't shatter the glass. Change the face you bring to it. She didn't post it right away. She saved it. Some things are better real than public. Some apologies are better lived than liked. When boarding started, she stood with everyone else. No cutting. No declarations. No performances. Just a boarding pass, a seat assignment, a destination. The gate agent smiled without recognizing her because the world does not always remember us at our worst. Sometimes, mercifully, it allows us to be new. As she walked down the jet bridge, she caught her reflection in the little circular window set into the emergency door. She saw a woman who had learned how small she was, and how freeing that could be. She saw a traveler instead of a queen without a crown. She saw a passenger, not a protagonist. She breathed in. She breathed out. She chose to sit with that. Back at the original airport, the lounge replaced the plate and moved on. Daniel trained 2 new agents, teaching them how to be kind without being swallowed by the endless mouths of other people's demands. Officer Lee mentored a class of recruits on de-escalation and dignity. Ramirez cheered too loudly at a school gymnasium and pretended not to cry when the choir hit the bridge. The barista perfected a new foam heart she'd been practicing, steadying her hand until milk obeyed gravity and art at the same time. The terminal continued to hum with people and plans and pauses. Arrivals and departures, hellos and goodbyes, strangers and stories. And every so often, a traveler would stand at the frosted glass and consider rushing a door that wasn't theirs. Then they'd see a small sign on the counter. Welcome. We're here to make waiting a little kinder. Please ask how. Most asked. Some didn't. But more than before, because stories have a way of teaching us even when we pretend they don't. Somewhere in the stream of everything, a blueberry rolled in a memory and stopped exactly where it needed to. And a woman kept walking, lighter than she had been the last time you saw her, because sometimes the heaviest baggage we check is the belief that the world owes us more than patience and a place in line. That morning she'd turned the lounge into a stage, she wanted to own a room. Today, she wanted to belong in one. It was enough. It was everything. And the airport, busy and bright, took her in like it takes everyone in, with rules that protect, with people who try, and with doors that open when the right key is offered with the right kind of grace. And if you need one last line, one last lesson to carry in your carry-on, let it be this. When a sign says members only, it isn't saying you're not worthy. It's saying this is one of 1,000 small agreements that let millions of strangers share a single building without losing their minds. Honor the agreement. Honor the people enforcing it. Honor the space you occupy. And when you can't, step away, drink some water, breathe, and try again. Because airports, for all their noise, are cathedrals of patience. Because rules, for all their bluntness, are scaffolding for kindness. Because we are all travelers, and none of us owns the sky. Not even on our worst day. Especially not then.